Number 8. The Titanic today. Ever since the rediscovery of the RMS Titanic wreck in 1985, experts have entertained the possibility of bringing it back up to the surface several times. But many don't believe it's even possible because of how deteriorated the vessel is, and raising the wreck would also be ethically questionable since it would involve disturbing the final resting place of over 1,500 people. The ship's condition has worsened considerably since its discovery, making the prospect of raising it to the surface less and less likely. But there's still a lot to learn from the decaying wreck, which can maybe help to answer some lingering questions about the tragedy. In 2017, author Shannon Maloney proposed that a fire in the ship's engine room had started before the Titanic even set sail. He believes that workers fought the blaze during the maiden voyage, but that it ultimately weakened the ship's hull, putting the vessel at a disadvantage before it hit an iceberg. Maloney has uncovered strong evidence pointing toward this possibility, including a photograph featuring a mysterious 30-foot-long streak on the hull. Engineers said that a fire in one of the coal bunkers could have caused the streak, possibly weakening the ship's steel frame by as much as 75%. It's unknown whether the wreck bears any evidence of this. A closer look could perhaps bring experts one step closer to finding out, but if they're going to investigate, they should probably do it soon. What's left of the Titanic is rapidly deteriorating, and anything that isn't brought to the surface somewhat soon will likely be lost to history, taking any remaining secrets it has with it. This is probably the most rational of several proposed alternative theories about what caused the Titanic to sink, ranging from the eccentric to the downright ridiculous. Some have suggested that the ship was struck by a torpedo, which sounds a bit unrealistic until you hear some of the other ideas people have come up with, including that the Titanic was victimized by an Egyptian mummy's curse. Number 7. A mammoth tusk. Scientists from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute were shocked in 2019 when they noticed what looked like a mammoth tusk at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. The team was navigating a remotely operated vehicle along the seafloor off the California coast when they spotted the out-of-place object sitting 10,000 feet below the water surface, and they were 185 miles from land, begging the question of how the 3-foot-long tusk got there in the first place. They retrieved the artifact and confirmed that it belonged to an extinct Columbian mammoth that died around 100,000 years ago. A mammoth tusk this old is an extremely rare find on land, but discovering one in the ocean was unheard of until now. Marine biologist Stephen Haddock told Gizmodo that he was shocked it hadn't been destroyed or buried at some point in time. The tusk is extremely well preserved, owing to the cold, high-pressure conditions along the ocean floor. In fact, it might be the most intact mammoth tusk from the region of North America that it was found in. Scientists plan to perform CT scans and attempt to extract DNA from the artifact in hopes of learning more about mammoth lineages. Columbian mammoths were hybrids of 2 different species, but researchers have yet to determine their origins in detail, including when the hybridization event occurred. Number 6. Water Witch Shipwreck. Sometimes it's not the actual discovery, but the process of looking for an artifact or ruin that makes it so mysterious. Take, for example, the Water Witch, a steamship that disappeared on November 11, 1863, shortly before the American Civil War ended. It got caught up in a brutal storm in Lake Huron's Saginaw Bay and plunged 230 feet to the bottom of the lake, taking its entire crew of 17 to 22 men down with it. Shipwreck hunters have been searching for it for over 50 years with no luck until this year, when 79-year-old David Trotter finally located it. Trotter is one of Michigan's most successful ship hunters. Throughout his career, he's found over 100 missing vessels. He told local station WZZM that he spent 40 years looking for the Water Witch, with his interest in the wreck peaking after the discovery of its sister ship, the City of Detroit, in 1998. The City of Detroit also sank in Saginaw Bay, and both it and the Water Witch were captained by a pair of brothers named George and Redmond Ryder. After finding the City of Detroit, Trotter thought it would be easy to locate the Water Witch, but the search continued for another 23 years while he and his team scoured a 2,500 square mile area of the lake bed. Finally, Trotter spotted an undiscovered wreck. A dive team was dispatched to the site in June. They spent less than a half hour capturing footage of the sunken ship from end to end, hoping to catch evidence of a smoking gun that would lead to its identification. The divers also estimated that the ship was 170 to 180 feet long, which kept it in the running for possibly being the Water Witch. Trotter and his team compared the features of the wreck with records of the vessel and found that they matched up. It was apparent that they had completed the #1 thing on Trotter's checklist: finding the Water Witch. The discovery revealed that it sank just 15 miles from the city of Detroit, despite the ships sinking a decade apart from one another. For now, Trotter is keeping the wreck's exact location a secret, but he said he plans to eventually share it with the public. Where do you think the Water Witch is located? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 5. The Stele of THONIS-HERACLEION. Around 440 BC, the Greek writer Herodotus described a coastal city that became known in later texts as Heracleion. Experts spent decades searching for it underwater until French archaeologist Frank Gaudiot finally discovered it off Egypt's northern coast in 2000 in Abu Qir Bay. Among the ruins, Gaudiot's team found a large stone containing inscriptions about a town called Thonis. Before then, researchers had widely believed that Thonis and Heracleion were two different places, but the hieroglyphics proved that they were one place that went by two names. To the Greeks, it was Heracleion, while the Egyptians called it Thonis. Pharaoh Nectanebo I commissioned the stele of THONIS-HERACLEION sometime during his reign, which lasted from 378 to 362 BC. A nearby identical stone was found at the ancient city of Naucratis, with the only difference being the column in which the location's name was carved. The tablet's decree states that 10% of all taxes from local productions and imports must go toward a temple in the eastern Nile Delta of Lower Egypt dedicated to the Egyptian deity Neith. Divers at THONIS-HERACLEION also found a nearly 18-foot tall, 6.6-ton red granite statue of Hapi, a divine personification of Nile floods. Dating back to the 4th century BC, it's the largest known Hapi statue ever found. THONIS-HERACLEION experienced an earthquake during the 2nd century BC that liquefied the ground beneath it, causing the city to sink into the sea. And until its relatively recent discovery, experts were stuck wondering if it was a purely mythical place. Number 4. Aboriginal settlements. Humans first arrived in Australia around 65,000 years ago when sea levels were much lower than they are today. As the climate cooled and the planet entered its most recent ice age, these levels fell even more. When the ice age peaked around 20,000 years ago, sea levels were around 427 feet lower than they are now. Coastlines extended much further than they do in modern times. Between 18,000 and 8,000 years ago, global temperatures began to rise, causing the ocean to swallow up dry land along with ancient coastal settlements that sat along the shore. While working off the coast of northwestern Australia last year, archaeologists discovered the first known examples of submerged Aboriginal settlements. The two sites had slowly sunk into the ocean toward the end of the last ice age. One settlement, located off the Dampier archipelago, contains hundreds of stone tools, which were found just 8 feet below the water's surface. The other site sits 46 feet underwater. It yielded at least one stone cutting tool made from locally sourced materials. Radiocarbon dating revealed that both settlements are at least 7,000 years old. The people who lived at these sites established them along the coast after traveling to Australia by boat from what is now Indonesia. Scientists believe that there are more submerged Aboriginal settlements waiting to be discovered, and that studying them will help solve unanswered questions about the movement and history of prehistoric humans. Number 3. Battersea Shield. In 1857, workers dredged up an ancient bronze shield from the Thames River in London while excavating ahead of the construction of the historic Chelsea Bridge. It's made from several pieces that are held together by rivets and is decorated in the style of the Celtic Latin culture. Known as the Battersea Shield, the object would have been used as a covering for a wooden shield. It's considered one of the most significant pieces of Celtic art ever discovered in Britain. But its origins are a mystery. For one, nobody can say with certainty when the shield was made or used. The Museum of London dated it to sometime between 350 and 50 BC, but experts think that it may have been made during the early 1st century AD. The workers who discovered the Battersea Shield also found skeletons, as well as large amounts of Roman and Celtic weapons. Consequently, some historians theorize that the shield was left behind during Julius Caesar's invasion of Britain in 54 BC. But most modern scholars challenge this view. The bronze plating that the shield is made with is too thin to have protected someone during combat, and it contains no sign of battle-related damage. So it's likely that the Battersea Shield was created as a way for someone to show off their social status or as a parade piece, and then was deposited into the river as a religious offering. Most researchers who agree with this also think that the shield predates Caesar's invasion in 54 BC. Interestingly, the artifact features swastika-like symbols which, in today's world, represents hatred and bigotry. At the time the shield was created, however, it represented good luck and solar energy. In the ancient world, the symbol wasn't called a swastika, but was known as the whirling sun. Number 2. Port of Amathus. The Port of Amathus was an artificial harbor that was likely built during the 3rd or 4th century BC near the modern-day city of Limassol in what is now Cyprus. Experts described it as an impressive but short-lived large public port project of the Hellenistic period, which may never have been completed. It contains 3 piers made from large rectangular stones, which protected ships from strong winds. Today, the ancient port's outer harbor sits 13 feet underwater and extends 328 feet from the shore. Sadly, it appears as though the site was never used for its intended purpose. The area was abandoned entirely by the 6th century, most likely due to Arab raids, although archaeologists admittedly don't know for sure why the population of Amathus fled. A team led by Dr. Jean-Yves Ampro first excavated the submerged site during the 1980s. In 2005, an artificial reef was established among the ruins. It has unfortunately caused a lot of stress to the structures. Now, officials want to turn the site into an underwater park. This plan is causing tensions between people who want to preserve the harbor and those who are more concerned with protecting a marine plant called Neptune grass. Authorities are pushing forward with the plans and have promised the public that they will protect both the submerged rooms and the Neptune grass, which is vital to aquatic ecosystems in the Mediterranean. Number 1. Ancient Canoe. While testing underwater scooters with a friend in Lake Mendota in Madison, Wisconsin, maritime archaeologist Tamara Thompson spotted what they initially thought was a log, but they realized that it was unlikely for a log to be resting at the bottom of the lake and decided to take a closer look with some colleagues. The 15-foot-long wooden object turned out to be a 1,200-year-old dugout canoe. It bears the distinction of being the oldest untouched and intact boat ever found in Wisconsin. The team recently recovered the canoe from beneath 27 feet of water, bringing it in contact with the air for the first time since around 800 AD. It may have been carved by people from the Ho-Chunk Native American tribe that has historically lived in the region. In the absence of modern-day tools, they would have burned a tree trunk and hollowed it out with stone tools, a painstaking process that state archaeologist Jim Skibo said would have taken hundreds of hours and a great deal of skill. Now that it's been exposed to air and light after sitting in the cold, dark water for over a millennium, the team is working diligently to preserve the canoe before it deteriorates. The process will take several years, after which the canoe will probably go on a display at a state history museum. Thanks for watching. Which one of these underwater discoveries was the coolest to you? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye!